America is a special place where when you have troops about to deploy to Iran for a boots-on-the-ground operation, they go to a strip club first, and they tell the stripper that they're being deployed for boots-on-the-ground operations. Now, hold on. We don't know exactly what boots-on-the-ground means. We don't know exactly what these deployment means, but I've been talking about this for the past week or so, that there are individuals sort of leaking this information. And now the strangest version of this story has emerged. I would argue it's not actually strange at all. It's actually kind of sad, hilarious, but also bad for us. Stripper reveals U.S. troops are blabbing to her about being deployed and blowing operational security. Loose lips sink ships, my friends. You know what's really fascinating is that for, I guess, your average person, they don't quite understand just how saying the minorest of things, the smallest of things, could really impact the war efforts, whatever the war efforts may be. Now, of course, we can have a debate about the merits of the war in Iran. People are upset. There's a lot of people breaking from Trump. All of that was always allowed, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, well, if you go back to World War II, this famous poster, loose lips sink ships. What did that mean? It meant that if you were a troop and they were like, hey, we're going to put you on this boat, get ready, you're deploying in 3 days or whatever. If you went to your neighbor and said, yeah, they're having me on a boat, I'm deploying, that word might spread. And you might think it's no big deal that you just said this one thing. It could be worse. This message was largely for the American citizens. If you watched a guy leave his house that you knew was deploying and you started talking about it, spies could be listening anywhere. So here we are, my friends. I've been pointing out over the past week or so that there are rumors circulating in the Beltway about more deployments to the Middle East for the war in Iran. Well, particularly because I'm not going to give you the specific details as to what's happening because I don't want to compromise whatever the operations may be and whatever these rumors may be, may not even be true. But actually, I'll take that back. We know that they're true, but I'm not going to get into specific details as to who these people are because that just knowing what their specialty is could, well, it's going to be very, very bad, right? If people around the world find out who's going where. But let's put it like this. Now that the news is basically already out, Pete Hegseth is talking about, well, why can't we have boots on the ground? You got to trust your president. Why wouldn't they trust their president? And boots on the ground probably means an invasion of Karg Island, so the U.S. can secure the oil dispensaries, we'll call it, the distribution hubs. But what we've been hearing in the past several weeks is that certain activities were being undertaken by individuals known to be in the military, and people took notice. The example that I give, because I'm keeping it vague, is a guy who's in the military who lives off base, packing his bags and saying goodbye to his family, and the neighbors notice. And then they tell someone, you see Jim, he's packing up. I think they're deploying Jim, and his specialty is insert specialty. Now, that's not exactly what's happening, because I don't want to point out anything specific like, guys buying scuba gear or something specific. But this right here, you gotta love it or hate it. I mean, it's probably really bad for us. So we do have this clip, Pete Hegseth talking about boots on the ground, and it seems like it may be the case. But check out this story first, because it is both funny and scary at the same time, that a stripper made a TikTok video where she's like, the troops are deploying and they're all coming to the strip club. Oh, heavens me. The New York Post reports, loose nips sink ships. A stripper revealed that on TikTok, young U.S. troops are apparently leaking news of their deployments while blowing their cash at jiggle joints. Oh, my God. San Diego-based dancer Charm Days, who has 900,000 followers, shared an emotional video late Sunday describing a wave of depressed servicemen from nearby military bases lamenting a deployment scheduled for next week. This is not good. Something I've noticed lately is all the military guys are coming in and they're spending all of their money. They're kind of depressed. They're like, oh, yeah, we're going to have fun. But you can tell something's off, and they're like, we deploy next week. Indeed. I wouldn't call it a particularly emotional video. It's, let's refresh. We'll play the video for you. She's just kind of laughing about it. And let's see if we play.
So several military bases, and something I have noticed lately is all the military guys are coming in and they're spending all of their money, and they're just like, it's sad. They're kind of depressed, and they're just coming in oh yeah, we're gonna have fun. We're getting, what is it called? Deployed? We're getting deployed next week, or this is happening. I don't know. I don't want to spread misinformation or anything, but it's just like a lot of them are really kind, and to see these like young guys that look like my pinky toe, like they're like fetuses coming in and then dancing with them and then being like bye, and then it's actually like making me emotional. Like it's fucked up.
Cringe. Guys, don't go to strip clubs. You know, I'm just, how untoward and how unbecoming. Now, I get it. I'm not going to be a prude or anything like that. But seriously? You got money and you're like, I'm going to go give it to this lady? And OnlyFans, don't get me started. Guys, have a little dignity and self-respect. Dude, you know, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to piss off all the lefties who make a living off of selling their jiggly bodies. You're allowed to be a man and, you know, like you like looking at girls. I get it. But have some dignity, okay? If instead of going, you know what? I get it. You know, like I've only ever been to one strip club in my life. It was after a party in Hollywood, and I'm not particularly interested in this. I got to be honest. I think the women are gross. I think this is disgusting. That's just me, because I have a moral foundation based on purity and sanctity, I believe it's called. Meaning, it's not so much that I'm like, oh, unpure. It's like, that is a low intelligent, I'm going to avoid being very mean, but let's just say it's debasing to human achievement. But I get it. Dudes like looking at jiggly ladies. You know, it is what it is. Guys, have some dignity, okay? I guess in this day and age, I don't know. They're going to go on OnlyFans and dump money on women who don't care about them and are just there to rip the money from your pockets. Don't get me wrong. I think the next degree of this is therapy, where women tell people, like, you need me to whisper sweet nothings into your ears for money. Anyway, loose lips sink ships. Don't go blabbing, especially to strippers. Days performs in clubs around the country, but her Facebook page says she's based in San Diego, home to the largest naval base on the West Coast. As is custom with military towns, there are also plenty of strip joints. Major units with the U.S. Navy, including Navy SEALs, as well as Marine expeditionary groups, are stationed at Naval Base San Diego, Naval Base Coronado, and Camp Pendleton. The dancer described the men as strikingly young. She called them fetuses. Yes, it was 18-year-olds that stormed the beaches of Normandy. Everybody knows this. It is always the 18 to 20-year-olds that are doing the fighting, because that's like, maybe like 23 is when a guy is going to be his strongest. But in pro sports, it's, 20-year-olds. Are you really surprised by this? Chock full of testosterone. The dancer described the men as strikingly young. Day said many of the troops are polite and soft-spoken, which only made the experience more emotional. She was laughing. What are you talking about? A lot of them are really kind. She admitted the encounters began to take a toll. Her video quickly spread online with viewers reacting to the raw glimpse into what some believe could be the human side of troops bracing for deployment amid rising tensions with Iran. Others saw a problem that these soldiers were apparently blowing OPSEC in an effort to get a pity party with their lap dance. I don't think they're blowing operational security for a pity party. I think they don't realize they're blowing operational security. And I would also stress, she doesn't know exactly what their MO is. I mean, these guys could be deploying to, I don't know, like the Mediterranean for like reconnaissance kind of stuff. They're not necessarily going boots on the ground. But that being said, we got a great quote from our good friend Pete Hegseth, who's basically like, why not boots on the ground? But you'll understand why he's saying this, because it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have boots on the ground. PSA, don't tell your adult entertainer you're deploying, Marine officer and influencer Kagan Dunlap posted on X. You got to remind your folks, don't talk to your barber about when you're deploying. Don't talk to your adult entertainer about deploying or when you're leaving, or what you're doing, or dates and times and locations, because they don't know any better. They're going to post a TikTok video about it. The Pentagon has readied thousands of troops, many from the Army's North Carolina-based 82nd Airborne Division, to deploy to help with the ongoing war in Iran. About 3,500 sailors and Marines aboard the USS Tripoli arrived over the weekend, U.S. Central Command announced on Saturday. Oh, boy. Well, we got Pete Hegseth here giving his morning press briefing statement, and he's talking about boots on the ground. I do want to throw this out there, though. Where we currently are, the Bunker Buster Blitz, massive oil tanker struck by Iranian drone near the Strait of Hormuz as U.S. unleashes 2,000-pound Bunker Buster bombs on ammunition depot. Well, here's Pete Hegseth. Let's hear what he has to say.
As far as President Trump and boots on the ground, I don't understand why the base, which they have already, they understand, wouldn't have faith in his ability to execute on this. Look at his track record of pursuing peace through strength, America first outcomes. What he's simply saying, and it's exactly true, and I've said from this podium too, we're not going to foreclose any option. You can't fight and win a war if you tell your adversary what you are willing to do or what you are not willing to do, include boots on the ground. Our adversary right now thinks there are 15 different ways we could come at them with boots on the ground. And guess what? There are. So if we needed to, we could execute those options on behalf of the President of the United States and this department. Or maybe we don't have to use them at all. Maybe negotiations work, or maybe there's a different approach. But the point is to be unpredictable in that. Certainly not let anybody know what you're willing to do or not do.
He's correct.
But if anybody has internalized the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan as the first one, President Trump, to call them out for what they are, he's not going to repeat those lessons. And I think I've been very clear about that from the...
I wish when they made these clips on X, they would give it a few extra seconds because it always just stops dead. And it's like, just put an end card, put a little bumper so it slowly stops, because then it just repeats itself. But anyway, that's just like a pet peeve of mine. Pete Hegseth is correct. And guys, you know, I've been mentioning this for a while. I just really can't stand that there are people cheering for the failures of the United States. I'm just so not interested in this. I don't want war. I don't want war in the Middle East. Here's the thing, though. I think what motivates me, the reason why I'm concerned about boots on the ground, is the betterment and well-being of this country. And I think there are a lot of people that are much more concerned, I'm not saying everybody, much more concerned about the betterment and well-being of foreign adversarial nations and extremists that want to kill us. And they're like, won't you think of the foreign extremists? Now, to be fair, there are legitimate patriots in this country who are deeply concerned about our involvement in the Iran war, and they are fervent. And that is okay, and that is allowed. I'm just saying, can we at least acknowledge there are some people that just hate this country? I certainly think that's the case. Now, I'm going to tell it like this. The question is, do you trust Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth? That's the question. If you believe that Donald Trump really does have the best interests of the United States at heart, then you've got to trust him. And that's what Trump supporters largely are seeing. And if you're not understanding this, let me explain it to you. There has been in place a system for a long time that seems to be extracting American values, culture, and resources and giving it away to other countries, namely China. They're giving away our manufacturing base. They're opening our borders. They're telling our citizens and our children not to have families. And that seems to be anti-America. You know, literally, like, they want to destroy it. Trump comes in and he has convinced the people that he, above all else, is here for you, the American people. That means so long as that trust remains with Donald Trump, people will support any effort he takes. And if that means boots on the ground, that means boots on the ground. But you got to understand this, MAGA supporters, MAGA individuals. The moderates don't trust Trump this way, and they don't see the same problems. Democrats just hate Trump no matter what he does. And if you don't have the moderates on your side, you don't win a midterm, and Trump is stopped. That means it is your job to sell, sell, sell. Always be selling, always be plugging. Isn't that what? That's what what's his face? Logan Paul was saying. He's like, always make sure you're plugging. And I'm like, that sounds kind of gross, but that's only if you have a dirty mind. You always want to be pitching what you're doing. You need to explain to the moderates what your mission is. And now the sad reality is this. The challenge Trump and Hegseth face, how do they accurately and articulately explain the operations in the Middle East and the missions and oil? Because I got to tell you, you go to a middle-of-the-road moderate individual, they don't really pay attention to politics, and you say, this is for oil, they're going to go, that's bad. Because no one, well, you know, I'd still do it. I got to be honest, I'd still do it. But most people are going to be like, we should not be blowing up, going to war for oil? That was the whole thing in the 2000s with Iraq and Afghanistan, no blood for oil, right? So there's going to be a lot of middle-of-the-road people like, that's why we're going there? I thought we were scared to get a nuke. And that's why they always go with they are a threat to us. With Iraq, it was yellow cake uranium. With Afghanistan, they're hiding bin Laden, and he attacked us. And now with Iran, they got a nuclear weapon. And honestly, I got to be honest, I think based on everything we've seen so far, there is a preponderance of evidence to the public that Iran certainly had greater missile capabilities than they let on. And they had more enriched uranium than they let on. And they had rockets capable of reaching Europe, and they claimed they didn't. And there are a lot of people that are like, I don't believe it. It's propaganda. Congratulations. Welcome to Fog of War. You are but a humble chicken in a chicken coop, and you don't know exactly what's going on. So the question is, do you support the United States and its efforts? Do you trust Donald Trump, or do you not? Guys, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Okay, I read the news all day, every day, and I'm telling you right now, you are just choosing to believe. That is the principal moral philosophy of the world. You choose what you believe. Now, some things you choose to, and this is true. It really is. Donald Trump says we're going to make America great again. Then he says we're going to war with Iran. We got to do these things. Do you trust him? Do you believe he is telling you the truth? The people who don't trust him and don't believe he's telling the truth think something else is going on. He's going to war with Iran to cover up Epstein, which I really doubt. I take a look at a few things. What is the simplest solution? What is the solution that makes the least amount of assumptions? And that really is the U.S. wants to dominate the energy markets internationally. Now, again, you go to a moderate person who doesn't really understand the world. I'm not trying to insult them. I'm saying they don't really pay attention to this stuff. You say we're going for the oil, and they're going to be like, that sounds bad. That sounds like we're stealing someone else's stuff. And you can explain to them, yes, but that stolen stuff benefits you and makes your gas cheaper. For most people who are first order thinkers, they cannot connect the dots to, hey, my gas is $4 and we don't control international energy markets. Because gas in other countries is very expensive. Gas for you is cheap because of the petrodollar system, which has been faltering. Controlling Iran, getting regime change, and basically seizing these energy assets, or actually even choking out the Strait of Hormuz, makes us the dominant energy player around the world, and our money is backed by oil. There's a lot of people who say the U.S. dollar is fiat, it's worthless, it's backed by nothing. Incorrect, it's the petrodollar, it's backed by oil. That dollars represent access to the oil market. Now, to be fair, we inflate. It is fiat. It's not like sound money like gold, where there's an actual one-to-one backing or anything like that. But the point is, our money represents oil. That's why people want it, because we have guns and we point it at them. Now, you don't have to like it, and you can fight against it. That's always allowed. I'm just pointing out. There's a lot of middle-of-the-road people that are like, I don't think we should be at war in Iran. And I'm like, I hear you. You know, if you have moral concerns and concern about the potential failures, is where my concerns are, that if we lose this, things will actually get worse. We'll have a financial crisis. Totally understand. Totally get it. Just understand, if we win, boy, are we going to be rich. It's like a great heist. You know what I mean? Hey, robbing a bank is wrong. Yeah, but if you do it, you'll be rich. Is it moral? Well, welcome to war, my friends. Do you want China and Russia and the BRICS nations to keep pumping Venezuelan and Iranian oil, to expand beyond the U.S. and become the global dominant hegemonic authorities for which we would have to bend the knee? That's the likely scenario, as China is set to displace the U.S. as the dominant global economy. Then there's also the risk of Thucydides' trap, war breaking out. Or you can say, I think America should be the dominant global authority and we should live like kings. Equivocate, moralize, whatever you want to do. You are allowed to say the U.S. should fall. Fine. I disagree. Doesn't mean I'm happy with the way things go, but it is just so simple in the minds of the average person that you should just not live a certain way, that we should not engage in certain activities. Again, my concern with these foreign wars is not the moral questions. That does play a role, but that's like third on the list. The first and foremost is this the appropriate action that must be taken to benefit the American people? That's the first question we have. And considering the failures of the past, I don't know that it is. The second question is about expensive resources. And will it be we'll call it EV plus or EV minus, expected value. Will this war ultimately create a stronger benefit, whether it is the right action or but my point is with number one, there could be better things we could do. Is this the best thing to do? The second thing is, as we are doing this, will the outcome be positive or negative? Then, of course, we have moral questions about collateral damage and injuries and all of these things. And people might be saying, Tim, that's cold and that's callous. Now, I'm going to tell you this. If it comes down to protecting my family, I'd be willing to do horrifying things. That's a reality. And I think anybody who says otherwise is just not being honest. But I'll give you the thought experiment. And there's no right answer, but I'll give you the thought experiment. And I'd like to hear comments in below. You're in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. You don't know where you are. You're lost. Let's just say this. Civilization is wiped out, nuclear annihilation, and you wake up in your middle of the woods. You have a rifle, You have a small satchel of food that might last you for the next day or so, and you have a small canteen of water that'll last you for the next day or so. You do not know where you will acquire the next bit of food or resources. You are walking in the woods trying to find access to water, potentially set up camp or shelter or otherwise, maybe find some civilization. And off in the distance, you see a man coming towards you. And he also visibly has a rifle, a small satchel that appears to be just like yours with food, and a canteen with water. You both see each other and freeze. What do you do? That's the first question. There's no right or wrong answer. The point of this thought experiment is that honestly, every answer is wrong. So many people would say, I love this. I think it was Andrew Branco was like, I'd shoot him. And I'm like, wow, cutting to the chase. And he's like, and then I go take his stuff. And I'm like, well, you're going to live because you've eliminated any potential threat, whether it was a threat or not. And then you got extra food and water. So there's always that. And then I love this because it really separates the men from the boys on this one. Liberals often say to me, I'd wave and shout. I'd say, hello. And I say, okay. He yells back, blocks, blah, blah. You don't understand what he's saying. And you're like, I have no idea what he's saying. What do you do? Honest question. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just a thought experiment to present a scenario to you to try and put you in this position where you're trying to navigate a very difficult circumstance. What if he yelled, don't move or I'll shoot? Do you move? I don't know. What if he said, hi, how are you? You don't speak his language. You don't communicate effectively. Okay. What if he starts walking towards you? What do you then say? No right or wrong answer. You say, freeze, don't move. He shouts back, ba, so ba, do. Looks like you don't communicate at all, and you have no idea what each other are saying. He's got a gun. Do you just let him approach? So, do you ready your weapon? Do you put your hand on your hip? Maybe you put your hand up. He can recognize what that means. You put your hand on your hip. As you put your hand up and reach towards your weapon, not to grab it, he sees you reaching for your gun and panics. And he grabs his sidearm and draws it. Now you see him drawing his gun, so you pull out your rifle and aim it. He pulls out his rifle, bang, bang, you're both shooting. Again, just one scenario. What if you yell hello and he goes, howdy, and you go, I'm lost, and he goes, me too. And you'd be like, I'm going to keep my hands up and I'm going to approach. My name's Tim. And he says, hey, nice to meet you. And you walk up, shake hands, and now you have an ally. My point is, you just don't know how these things play out. What if the guy, you walk up, you say, hello, and he responds, don't move. And then he draws his gun on you. Then what do you do? What if he then says, drop your weapon now or I'll kill you? Do you let him do it? So let's say you go, okay, I don't want to fight. I'm going to put my weapon down. Let's work together. And he goes, yeah, for sure. Then you put your weapon down. He walks up, bashes you in the face, takes your food and water and leaves. You just don't know the intentions of the other person, which makes it very difficult in war. We scale that up to nation states. And you go to negotiate with a foreign country and you say, we got reports that you are developing nuclear weapons. You are preparing a weapon and we know you don't like us. And they go, that's not true. We're not doing that. And then you get more intel and shows they are. And you say, listen, I'm telling you to stop doing this because we will not allow you to arm yourselves and become a threat to us or our allies or the region. And they say, you're mistaken. We're not doing anything of the sort. We have satellite photographs of you loading uranium. You're mistaken. That's just for energy. And they say, okay, well, we're not willing to let you get those weapons. I'm sorry. You're in the woods and you have a gun and there's a gun lying on the ground and you come across a man who you know hates you. And he looks at the gun and he looks at you and you say, don't go for it, brother. Don't go for it. And he's like, I mean you no harm. I'm no threat to you. I just want to pick up my stuff and go. And you're like, I am not going to let you pick that weapon up and threaten me and my family. And he says, you're mistaken. You're mistaken. Then he dives for the weapon and grabs it. So what do you do? I understand it's not so simple with geopolitics. There's a million and one factors. But the point is, it's just so easy to sit back and just believe you know. And the real challenge is they're not going to tell you. So I don't have any good answers for you. I'm not saying the war is a good thing. I'm saying, do you trust Donald Trump? And many of you are going to say no. And that was always allowed. But here we are. I'm going to leave it there, my friends. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Stay tuned. We got more coming up for you throughout the day, and we'll see you all in the next segment. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Once again, thanks for hanging out.